Money for a Startup. And we are be joined today with Kayla to talk about her new business idea. We have the twins with us. Say hi, twins.
Hi, twins.
And we have Thomas, our repeat guest and pitch advisor and all kinds of great stuff and attorney. So Kayla, what do you got going on? What's your business idea?
Hi, Society Detroit. I'm trying to start a t-shirt line right now.
So why do you want to start a t-shirt line?
I want a way to be able to use my voice to spread it to the world.
Okay, very cool. So who are you trying to reach?
I guess I'm trying to reach all the people who I feel like didn't hear me when I was a kid crying out for help.
Oh, wow. Okay, so can you elaborate on that a little bit?
I feel like here in Detroit, like if you're not the star, they don't see you. And so because I wasn't the best dressed and didn't have like all the money like the cool kids, I just was so overlooked that it was like, well, what can I do to make them hear me? What can I wear? What can I do to stand out? And that's what the t-shirt line brings.
Very cool. So how do you plan on doing this?
By using art from Detroit artists to create my t-shirt.
Very cool. So it sounds like you're gonna do this in Detroit.
Yes, I am.
So when are you starting to work on this?
I'm starting right now in 2022.
Perfect. Okay, great. So any initial comments from anybody?
So can you elaborate a little bit on what would make the t-shirts different and that kind of thing?
What makes my t-shirts different is how we get our art. We're using only Detroit artists to tell the story of Detroit. And when other people outside Detroit get to see how we are able to tell a story, it makes them want to know more. It makes them want to maybe see our city because they had only the bad reputation and now they see something good.
I like it. So let's not talk about the problem you're solving. So you talk about your voice and outreach. So is that why? So why Detroit artists?
I feel like our Detroit rap artists, a lot of people in Detroit really, really push their work. However, they're not seen outside of Detroit. And so we're able to kind of broaden their voice. We're able to put them on a market where they might not have been recognized before, but because it's just on a cool t-shirt, it's kind of easily able to, break that barrier.
Very cool. So that's obviously a solution. So there's a lot of t-shirt business. So how do you plan on doing this business? Like, so I think the approach you told me earlier when we chatted about this a little bit is I think the idea is to approach local artists, get them to design different types of styles of t-shirt, and then just getting it manufactured and distributing it through, I believe you said social media and through networking and things like that.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, sounds about right.
Yes.
What are your thoughts, Thomas?
Yeah, I mean, I think, to me, the unique thing here is what you can do with the artists that can make it actually different. So I think the big thing is elaborating a bit on the social media, making sure that you're using them as influencers as well to promote what they're doing and sort of piggyback off that and their followings. The second thing, I would assume this is a heavy e-commerce play. Is that your plan?
So I feel like the e-commerce play is the easy play. So yes, that is our big way of making the merchandise sales. But the in-store play is what makes us dynamic and cool because I want to have the creative corners inside the store.
Yeah, I think you have to have both too because the Detroit brand, you have to be a Detroit-centric thing.
You have to.
And I think a lot of people, because I think a lot of people like to think globally and everyone's their customer, but the reality is, I mean, Detroit's kind of is a special place. I've lived here all my life, so I mean, there's that bonding unity too. That I mean, most of us when we go out of town wear just some sort of Detroit baseball gear or Old English tea or something like that. So I think putting an artist thing on that, I think that's just a really good idea. And out of towners that want to look tough too.
Yeah. They'll want to be a part of it, but can't. It's exclusive.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think that's actually not a bad angle, trying to tap into some exclusivity. I'm not sure how to do it yet, but we definitely want to put that on the radar, because if we can put some exclusivity, like you can't get this, because I mean, like country clubs do it, and like other
It's
organizations.
I feel like the exclusivity that we offer is the fact that we only work with Detroit artists, and when we do the feature music artists, we're only using Detroit music artists. I feel like once the brand gets bigger, more artists are going to want to be able to have that. And in order for that to happen, guess what? High Society Detroit has to now come to your state for us to support you. And so now we get to get international with it because you want to be able to be big with High Society. It creates so much more than just a t-shirt line.
And I think when you talk about exclusivity and with a name like High Society, you go with a little bit more of a premium type of t-shirt and something that's really unique and therefore a limited run of t-shirts. And we
Yes.
see this sometimes in the sports world. There's a few companies that I know of pretty well that create, like, they'll pick a retro logo or something like that, and they sell 200 of them. And if you don't get it in the 200, you can't buy that t-shirt ever.
Exactly.
And it makes it a demand, and they actually release them on a set schedule so people come back as fans and buy a t-shirt every month or something along those lines.
Yes.
Yeah, that's super smart. Actually, the limited edition, like only limited quantity, that's obviously it's super obvious. Not you said it, but yeah, I think that's a great idea. Yeah, so we definitely got to put that in our notepad there too. Okay, very cool. So the team.
So the team would be, it would include people like artists from Detroit and other graphic designers and creators to come together to come up with the ideas for the team.
So what about your team now?
Right now, it's just me. I'm working on coming up with the people for the Creative Mind Hive.
Well, I think you have two business partners probably with you right now too. So we'll talk about that later.
Oh, fingers crossed, right?
So in terms of, like, trying to think of anything else I missed right now. Okay, in terms of, so here's one that's gonna be probably more for me and Thomas. So how do you make money at a t-shirt line? Because obviously there's a heavy competition. So any thoughts on, just off the cuff, in terms of being competitive?
Well, I don't. So I have three. My idea is to have three different price points for t-shirts. Just like in most places, there's people who are just coming in just to look around, and then there's people who really love to support the brand, and then there's those people who came for just what they came for. And so if we have like the feature musician tee, which will only be the limited amount, like probably like 30 of those tees that's just for that musician, boom, all those people are coming in just because I need my Babyface Ray t-shirt or whatever. But then we also have our walking canvas t-shirts that is from the artist, that is donated from our artists, and we choose those to go ahead and put out, and they're able to get their name out. They're able to put it out on social media and say, hey, go find my t-shirt. They just dropped with this new season with the new theme. We want it. That's able to get advertisement for the whole brand, but they're also just supporting their own business. And then, of course, High Society would just have, I feel like, $25 t-shirts. Very simple, very easy to sell. Boom. It's representing us and our brand and our name. We just want to be out here. We want everyone to know, hey, it's us.
Perfect. Well, I like it so far. So Thomas, do you have any other advice or suggestions for her?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can probably see the questions coming in on the side from Jake, and I think he's making some good comments and also some questions. But he asked that last one, which is the rights to the musicians and the artists' work. One of the things you have to be very cautious of is protecting their IP while also making sure you can use their IP in the way you want to. I think that's something that comes up really, really big in the music space, especially, but also any of these artists, they want to have an image and things like that. And because of the space I work in, it's near and dear to my heart, protecting an individual's intellectual property, and then with their creative works, which are imminently copyable, what they can do. The other comment I would make is I think I like what you were talking about with the different tiers of pricing. One thing to bear in mind is t-shirts are often an impulse buy on some level. And I always think of there's a company here in Grand Rapids called the Mitten State that sells like Michigan themed things. And every couple of months they'll release like a old Red Wings logo, or they'll have something like that. And it's very impulsive to say, oh my God, that's so cool, I got to have that. And for a while, they would do this with colleges as well. So the more of that you can create where you get something that's impulse
Yeah.
related. So that's really cool. But yeah, if you could create a place where it makes it, where you're really helping those artists and musicians broadcast their brand, even though it's a local store, on a more, hey, regional and national and even global stage, that's always something that small artists in particular are looking for.
Yes.
So that's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Nice. So good job. So Kayla, how many times have you pitched this idea?
This is my first time ever talking about it out loud with anyone, so don't judge me, guys.
No, I think you did an amazing job. Are you kidding me? For the first time? That was great. So great job. So do you want to stick around and listen to Thomas, or do you have to
I would
go?
love to. I would love to hear how it's really supposed to go.
All right. Oh, there's some pressure now.
Yeah, now I have to do amazing. But it's, hey, what I would say is this, I think you did a good job for the first time. I deal with students. And so my philosophy is fun, F-U-N, which is blank up now. These are the times to do it. When you're actually sitting in front of an investor, that's when you want to be on point. And you didn't F up right now. So, but you'll get better, and you'll expand this over time. And as you build the company, you're early stage, right? And so moving into the later stages, you'll develop this more and more. And I was actually talking about an inspirational story today. I have a student who literally last fall, about a year ago, came in with, they heard there was an idea pitch on campus through our CEO club, came up with an idea, practiced it that day, got up on stage and pitched in between night classes, finished second place, and wound up in the spring winning our student accelerator and the biggest check that we write as a university to a student startup. And so in a matter of 6 months or so, went from literally an idea they had, almost under some duress because we were like, Joey, you need to pitch tonight, to winning the competition and attracting a lot of attention for what he was doing.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing. Here's the thing a lot of people forget. So Kayla's obviously early stage. And if you want to invest in her or Thomas's business opportunities, they'll make it destiny.com and we can talk to you. Here's the thing that a lot of people miss, and this is where I can't say it enough. I talk to investors all the time. My main job of life at this point is getting from investors and getting them to invest in businesses like these. And the biggest thing I run into is that people always say they don't do it, but they don't realize the value investing they get. So if you invest in like Uber right now, what's their market cap? Like $10 billion or something like that. So what is the valuation of Varsity Gems and someone invest right now, Thomas, on the convertible? Like, what's the cap at?
I think we're right now at a value, well, depending on which convertible note, but I think we're at 2 million is what we're going out at, 1.5, 2 million. So you have obviously a greater opportunity to gain value there. Yeah.
So I'm going to break that down for me because I think it's important. I need to do this a lot because people don't get it. So if you invest in Uber, if you invested $1 million in Uber, you'd have less than 1% of it. If someone invested $1 million in Varsity Gems, they'd own 50% of the company based on that valuation. And people miss that point. That's where the 10X comes in. So a business like Kayla is probably worth, I would say the idea once we develop a little bit is maybe worth $500,000, maybe $250,000 on the pre-money valuation. So if you support companies like this now, you can get a big piece and have a big impact. The other thing is that they're going to listen. If you have ideas for these businesses, they're going to pick up the phone and listen. Like that's what's happening right now. So just kind of my little soapbox about startups for those people out there. So if anyone's interested in talking to either of them about investing, definitely reach out and we can figure out and connect the dots. So Thomas, I stalled off long enough for you. Now we're going to talk about Varsity Gems. So what is Varsity Gems and what are you doing?
So in a nutshell, we create what we call digital trading cards for student athletes under the new NCAA name, image, and likeness, or NIL rules. And so it's an opportunity actually to create NFTs that we just simply call digital trading cards because they literally look like retro trading cards. And it was born out of my son being a Division I athlete, me being a former Division III athlete, and having coached a number of athletes that played across the spectrum, mostly in basketball, was where my coaching experience was. And it was actually born at Dartmouth Tuck School of Business, one of the Ivy League schools of business. They brought me in to advise on a research project last fall. And we had a technology partner called Mcfadden Digital. And Mcfadden and I got together and created the company.
So who are you targeting?
So really, it's a marketplace. And so there's multiple targets. On one side, we have to recruit student athletes. So the athletes themselves want to find opportunities under the NIL rules. So we spend a lot of our time recruiting them. I have a couple interns who are actually current student athletes themselves who go out and do that. The second side is going after people who are purchasers of these NFTs. And from a mission standpoint, we're really seeking to focus less on the NFTs, but getting the athletes paid. So we're going after their fans and supporters, alumni of the school, as well as the NFT people who are going to buy these as collectibles. But the main goal here is to get those people who want to support the student athletes and put money in their pocket now that they can actually make money, as opposed to what they, in my day, when you couldn't make money.
Yeah, so there's two big things about this startup that I like. Number one, it takes advantage of two things that changed recently. Number one, the emergence of NFTs. Number two, the change in the NCAA rules for student athletes to get paid. So that's another thing. Entrepreneurs get rewarded for moving faster than big companies because they just don't have the ability to do it.
Yeah.
So in terms of like, how are you guys doing it? Like, how are you producing these NFTs?
Yeah, we use a process called lazy minting. And what we came out of the study realizing was that the student athletes needed something that didn't cost anything for them to participate, was easy for them to participate in, and that was something that could actually generate revenue that was different than some of the NIL deals out there, which are brand focused. And so that was where we were born. The other thing that we do is we focus on non-revenue sports, but also smaller programs. So I teach at a Division II school, Grand Valley, one of the top Division II programs in the country. So we are actually focusing on schools like a Grand Valley, and Division III, where I played at Kalamazoo College when I played football. So these are schools that have set fan bases. Alumni have been through this experience, and they're also probably the most underserved as far as NIL deals. But their fan bases are rabid, and they're a bit unique because they're often alumni or those that actually played a sport. So at D3, it's not uncommon for more than half the students at a school to play a sport and want to support that. And what really this was born out of was two stories I like to tell. The first was one of the student athletes I coached. From a raw talent standpoint, this was the best basketball player I've ever coached, not even close. The kid could dunk, shoot, do whatever he needed to do. Came from a bit of a rough background, inner city Grand Rapids kind of situation. And he got to Division II. I won't say which school because they probably wouldn't want me to say it, but got there, and outside of the scholarship, he didn't have money. And so he washed out after a year because he was tired of his teammates being able to go out and go to the beer blast on Friday, eat out, do all that stuff. And he was using the same beat up pair of shoes that the team gave him in the fall. And that was his pair of shoes for the year. And so he said, college is great, but I'm going to go home and get a job at Amazon because I can make money. And he now has 2 kids and is an Amazon delivery driver. Not necessarily a bad outcome, but not, obviously, he could have played basketball overseas professionally, probably not the NBA. The second story, more near and dear to me, I was a rich kid. My dad was an executive for Oracle. My mom was a higher education dean, so we didn't lack for money. When I got to college, practice would often end after the cafeteria closed. Being a rich kid, what did I do? I went to Burger King or Jimmy John's or wherever, got myself dinner. My 2 roommates, who were one from inner city Houston, one from inner city Detroit, they didn't have that luxury. So the cafeteria was closed and they didn't eat again until breakfast the next day. Jokingly, we were called the Breakfast Club because the 3 of us were the only freshman idiots in the cafeteria, but it actually was a sad story because they were starving. So I was just there to get bacon and eggs because I want to eat bacon and eggs. They were there because they hadn't eaten in probably 18 hours. And we want to make sure that no student athlete goes through that. And my son, for instance, a NCAA regional qualifier, conference champion, probably one of the best track athletes at Oakland University currently, and maybe historically holds a couple school records. He's at a 65% scholarship. And before this rule, he was driving DoorDash to fit, to cover the rest of his bills. Now he can do things here and make money while he's also practicing and doing all the hard work that it takes to be a student and an athlete at the same time.
So can you explain how the athletes make money, like what exactly they do and what you do to help facilitate that?
So we sign a contract with the athlete that basically says, hey, get us 10 to 15 images of you. And we create these digital trading cards and we sell them. And the typical cost is $100. The student keeps $75. The rest of it comes to cover our costs and our profits. And we can do unique things like we can create a unique where it's a 1-of-1 image. We can do groups of 10 where the same image is sold 10 times and you've got to get in. So there's less scarcity. We can do team packs for an entire team and things like that. And what we've also begun to do is start having upsales where they can, purchasers can buy a digital frame. so they can actually display the NFT, or the purchaser can, for an additional amount of money, buy a Cameo style video call with that student athlete. So if they're an alumni and they want to talk to that athlete on their birthday or something, they can get that. And also we're partnering with some of the wallet companies like MetaMask to make sure we get other revenue streams in. The student athletes are all eligible to get a referral bonus if they refer teammates in. So we find a few student athletes at every school that really want to drive this train, and they come in. But what's cool is most of the athletes have said yes. We've only had one athlete say no. We had one athlete whose school broke the rules and said no, which the schools technically aren't allowed to do, but the student athlete said, I don't want to get cut from the team for doing an NFT. But we've also been partnering with conferences. So there's a couple of big announcements on the road that we're going to be partnering with conferences, two of the bigger Division II conferences, which will get us well over, our goal this year was to get to 4,000 athletes. We'll be over 10,000 athletes by December, which would be really cool.
I have a question.
Sure.
What's featured on these players' cards? Like, am I getting their stats? What am I learning from them when I purchase this?
Right now, it's just images. My designer has designs that do a couple different things. One is a pretty generic, it's got their social media handles and says, go check out my handles and follow me, because the students want to build their following. The other thing that we're starting to do is I teach entrepreneurship, right? And we tell these student athletes, for instance, next Friday, I'm speaking at Wayne State. I'm going to go in there and say, this is entrepreneurship. You're a student athlete. I don't care what your major is. You're building your legacy for after you're done, because guess what? You're, a high jumper at Wayne State. You're not going pro in high jump because there is no pro high jump. Second of all, if you were good enough to do that, you wouldn't be at Wayne State. So connect with alumni and build something so that after you graduate, you've got a career based on the excellence that you showed in college. And what's interesting is student athletes tend to have higher GPAs. They tend to be more driven than a lot of the general population students. That's not always the case. Obviously, there's plenty of students who are great students who aren't athletes, but like the athletes we have at Wayne right now are phenomenal examples. My favorite one is Julius Wilkerson. He's a linebacker, like a 4.0 student, president of the SAC, beloved by other student athletes. And I would hire Julius if I had the money to in a heartbeat when he graduates. But he's building his legacy for afterwards. So the last thing is then we are looking into statistics and stuff, but often the rights to those things are actually owned by the schools, or they're difficult to display. So we want to make sure that the designs are cool, because one of the other markets we've seen is young kids. And I always pick on, I have a 22-year-old who's the high jumper at Oakland, then I have an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. They love athletes. They go to a Division III basketball game, and the 5th string kid that doesn't even have a jersey on underneath his warmups because he's not going to play taps them, and their life is made, right? So they want to collect those cards and have them because they think it's the coolest thing in the world. So we just want the images to be cool and something that they can desire and want to throw up. So
tell us about your team. Who's involved working on this?
Yeah, right now, sort of full time, it's myself. I have a CMO, Brendan Casey, and I specifically hired a young person. Brendan's relatively young, right out of college, went to University of Kentucky. He's our remote team member. He lives in Montana, but he's a great kid. He's worked in the crypto space before and has a lot of experience. The second is our CTO, Evan Marsh, and Evan worked closely with us on the tech side. We then have a tech team, Mcfadden Digital. I want to mention Mcfadden over and over again because they are a huge partner of ours, and we wouldn't be here today without them, their CEO, Tom Mcfadden, and the team that's there that built the technology. And Mcfadden, just so you guys know, is an e-commerce company. They build e-commerce integrations, and they work with some of the biggest brands in the world. I won't list them off, but go to their website, check it out. They're a global company, so we're very lucky to have them, and they've been supportive of us like you wouldn't believe. And then on my team, I have two also working are Jonah Spates. Jonah is a kid that grew up here in Grand Rapids. He plays football at Kalamazoo College. He's a great wide receiver, and he's been helping us recruit student athletes. And then marketing and design, I have Grace Glass, and she's a softball player at Calvin University here in town, who I met through her professor. And Grace and Jonah killed it. Our company is we got so lucky having them, and we're just about to bring on our third intern, who's a multi-sport, multi-event track and field athlete, focusing mostly on the javelin now, named Tiana McQuaig. Tiana's there at Wayne State University, but grew up here in West Michigan, and I met her at the SAC retreat, and she's awesome. So she and another female track athlete, actually, we just did some live streaming with, and we did a photo shoot with them because they want to build out their whole NIL portfolio, and so we're helping them. So
Perfect. So last time we talked, you were getting ready for your soft launch, and now where are we at? We soft launched, hard launched, medium launched.
Yeah.
Like where are we at?
So we had some snafus with payments, but the APIs and everything came in. So we are ready to go. So on Monday, we'll be selling NFTs, and you can buy them with crypto, but you can also buy them with fiat currency. So what we were waiting for was the ability, and what I mean by fiat is a debit card or credit card. So we want grandma and grandpa to be able to buy these without having to have Ethereum. So that's ready to go. We've got over 200 athletes with NFTs already done, ready to go. Predominantly right now, football players, just because we went out and recruited heavy for football this season. Sadly, because I'm at Grand Valley, most of them are, a lot of them are Ferris State football players, which is our rival. But we do have a couple star Grand Valley players. So a lot of D2 and D3 football players and a few D1. We actually have a kid, Blake Bosma, who has been having an amazing season for Western. He was a walk-on who got his scholarship this year. And if you watch the Michigan State versus Western game, Blake was number 86. He had a really great game against the Spartans, even though MSU won. So we have some great athletes. And then we also have a big population of hockey and baseball players. We recruited them intentionally, and we're starting to really dive into soccer and women's sports. So what we want to do is really feature female athletes and empower them. And what's funny is at every level of play but Division II, men far outpace women as far as NIL dollars. At Division II, women are almost 75% of the deals. And so we want to continue to empower that, just because a lot of great female student athletes who are also great people, and we want them to make money and have great experiences.
So are you pre-revenue, mild revenue, or do you start, like, I know normal revenue is probably starting on Monday, but did you see some stuff before that? Did you have some test runs?
I'll say pre-revenue just because we have revenue goals for this year. We're raising a small amount. We're not raising a ton. I've been through multiple exits and been with startups for a while. So this isn't my first rodeo. I actually used to bootstrap predominantly, but with this, we've got to scale a little bit faster. So we need some go-to-market funding. But our goal is by the end of the year to be profitable and to be selling enough NFTs that we're profitable and just need to raise for scale.
Okay, perfect. Well, good job. Any other questions? Or anything we else missed? All right, I get to be on the big screen for 5 seconds. All right. Well, thank you guys for showing up today. I really appreciate it. And if anyone's interested in investing or supporting them in any way, opportunities at omegadestiny.com. If you're looking for funding at omegadestiny.com. You can see that in the show notes. And we're going to definitely keep in touch with both of you and make sure you're still making progress. But thanks. Good job, both of you today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.